It's funny how we often treat reading like we're a human barcode scanner.
A barcode scanner. I mean, that is a really mechanical way to look at a book.
Yeah, I know, but think about it, though. We point our eyes at a page, we scan the words, we hear this little mental beep, and boom, we assume we know exactly what we just read.
Right, like it feels very transactional when you put it that way. Input, output.
Exactly. You identify the subject, you get the point, and you move on with your day. Like, you scan a science article, your eyes catch the word photosynthesis maybe 3 or 4 times, and you think, got it. This is a piece about plants.
Sure, yeah. But then you sit down for a major gatekeeper exam.
Oh, totally.
Maybe you're taking, the TEAS or the HESI A2 because you're trying to get into nursing school, and you're sitting in that sterile testing center and the clock is just relentlessly ticking down in the corner of your screen.
Or honestly, maybe you're just trying to read a really complex, multi-layered op-ed in the Sunday news.
Exactly. And suddenly that barcode scanner is completely useless.
Yeah, because you know exactly what the passage is about, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know the subject, but you get to the question asking what it actually means, and you are totally lost in the woods.
It's the ultimate diagnostic trap. It's that horrible moment you realize you've successfully identified the subject, but you have completely missed the actual message.
And that is exactly what we're tackling today. Welcome to our deep dive.
Oh.
Today we have a mission specifically for you, the learner.
We are demystifying a reading concept that seems on the surface so simple, but is actually the ultimate gatekeeper for those nursing school entrance exams.
And quite frankly, it's a foundational skill for everyday media literacy.
Yeah.
We're talking about topic versus theme.
Or more specifically, the difference between what a text is about and what it's actually saying.
Okay, let's unpack this. We need to start with some ground rules here.
Yeah.
What is the functional difference between these two things?
Well, the cleanest way to test this is by looking at the specific question each concept answers. So a topic answers the question, what is this about? It's always something you can state as a single word or like a short noun phrase. It's bounded. So war, or a family road trip, or as you mentioned earlier, photosynthesis.
So if I'm reading a novel about a family driving cross-country, the topic is literally just a family road trip.
Yes. But a theme answers a much deeper question. It asks, what is this text saying about what it's about?
Okay, wait. What is it saying about what it's about?
Exactly. It's the underlying message. It's the insight or the argument the author is making about that family road trip. And structurally, it has to be a complete thought.
Oh, I see. So if the topic is a family road trip, the theme can't also just be a family road trip.
Nope.
The theme has to be a full declarative sentence, something like family bonds can survive even when family members deeply disappoint each other.
Spot on. Yeah, the theme is often expressible as this sort of formula, like X reveals, shows, or suggests that Y.
Right, okay.
It's a stateable claim about the human experience, or, in the case of nonfiction, a claim about the way the physical world works.
I'm curious about the origin of this, actually. I feel like we just take for granted that reading works this way, that there are these two separate tracks of meaning. Did someone actually invent this distinction?
Well, it's part of an older rhetorical tradition, actually. You can trace the core idea all the way back to Aristotle's rhetoric in ancient Greece.
Right, ancient Greece? Really?
Yeah, he was already pointing out the difference between a speech's subject, so the things being talked about, and its thesis, which is the actual argument being advanced.
Okay, so Aristotle laid the groundwork way back when. But why is this such a massive deal in American schools today? Like, why is this specific distinction the bane of every nursing student's existence on these standardized tests?
To understand that, we have to look at a massive shift in how we taught reading in the mid-20th century.
Oh, okay. What happened?
There was this group of influential scholars known as the New Critics, specifically guys like Cleanth Brooks and Robert Penn Warren.
Okay, I think I've heard of them.
Yeah, they published a really famous textbook in the 30s called Understanding Poetry, and they basically trained an entire generation of English teachers to hunt for a poem's theme as its central unifying idea.
Like, completely separate from its plot or its, ostensible subject.
Exactly.
I'm trying to picture the classrooms they were dealing with, though. I imagine they were reacting to something driving them absolutely crazy.
Oh, they were reacting to the classic, agonizing student book report.
Oh, no. We've all been there.
Right. Imagine being a teacher back then. You assign a novel, and you get 50 papers back that just summarize the events. The boy lost his dog. The boy looked for his dog. The boy found his dog.
They just regurgitated the plot.
Right, the topic, but they offered zero insight into what the story actually meant. Students were completely conflating the events of the narrative with the argument of the narrative.
So the new critics came in and said, stop telling me what happened, tell me why it matters. But did they view theme as something subjective, or was it like a strict rule?
Well, that's where they ran into trouble. Early 20th century pedagogy treated theme as this fixed, recoverable moral that the author intentionally buried in the text.
Buried, like a treasure chest.
Yeah, they taught reading as an excavation. The text literally contains the meaning, and the reader just has to dig it up, almost like a scavenger hunt.
Huh.
It was often reduced to these single universal truths, like man versus nature, or the corrupting power of ambition.
Wait, I have to push back on that. Isn't reading way more personal than just extracting a hidden object?
How do you mean?
Like, if I read a book about resilience after going through a brutal career setback, I'm going to pull a very different meaning from it than if I read it when I'm, on top of the world. The whole excavation idea makes it sound like my own lived experience doesn't matter at all.
And that exact frustration you're describing led to a massive revolution in how we understand reading.
Oh, really?
Yeah, a scholar named Louise Rosenblatt is the key figure here. She introduced reader response theory.
Reader response theory.
She argued that reading is not an excavation, it's a transaction. Meaning doesn't live solely in the ink on the page, and it doesn't live solely in the reader's head either.
So where does it live?
The theme emerges from the collision between a specific reader's lived experience and the text's specific language.
Wow, okay. Let me make sure I'm grasping the scale of this. Are you saying two people can read the exact same text and walk away with totally different themes?
I am. Yeah, let's take a story about a relentless, obsessed entrepreneur who sacrifices his health to build a company.
Okay. Pretty common trope.
Right. So a reader who is currently burned out and exhausted might read that and conclude the theme is blind ambition destroys our capacity for joy.
That makes sense.
But a reader who just got laid off and is desperate to build something of their own might read the exact same text and conclude the theme is true innovation requires sacrificing personal comfort.
And neither of them is inherently wrong.
Exactly. As long as they can point to specific sentences and developments in the text to support their claim, the evidence is the anchor.
Got it.
What's fascinating here is how Rosenblatt's transaction theory shifted the entire landscape of modern testing. Entrance exams like the TEAS and HESI A2 aren't asking you to recite a single correct theme from some cosmic answer key.
They're testing your reasoning process.
Yes. They want to see if you can identify a theme and connect it to textual support, rather than just memorizing old moral lessons.
Okay, but if these tests are measuring our reasoning process, how exactly do we apply this under pressure?
That's the real challenge, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, if you're sitting there staring at a dense paragraph on a screen, the clock is flashing, how do you logically and systematically separate the topic from the theme?
We need to rely on the first principles of how these concepts operate. So principle number 1 is about scope. Topic is bounded. Theme is generalizable.
Bounded meaning like it's locked inside the borders of that specific piece of writing.
Yes, exactly. A topic only applies to the specific text in front of you. But a theme, once you identify it, could theoretically apply to other texts or even your own real-life situations. If you can imagine the exact same underlying message showing up in a completely different story with brand new characters in a totally different setting, then you have successfully found a theme.
That is a great mental test. So, practically speaking, if I'm staring at the screen, what is the actual physical process a student should use to find them?
Well, that brings us to principle 2. You find a topic by skimming, but you find a theme by inferring.
Okay, skimming makes total sense for the topic. You're just hunting for repeated nouns. You read the title, you check the first paragraph, you see the word mitochondria 6 times, boom, you've got your topic.
Right.
But inferring feels really risky on a timed multiple choice test. How do I infer without just, guessing what the author meant?
Well, inferring isn't guessing, it's tracking. To
Yeah.
find a theme, you have to track what happens to the characters or the concepts across the entire piece.
Track them how?
You ask yourself, what is the ultimate consequence of these events? Or what conclusion does all this accumulated evidence point toward?
This brings me back to the barcode scanner analogy. Standardized tests are basically designed to trick the barcode scanner.
Oh, absolutely they are.
Because if you just scan for repeated words, you're only going to find the topic. And the test makers will absolutely put that topic in the wrong answer choices to bait you.
100%. They know exactly what you're doing.
So to find the theme, You have to actually digest the supporting details and synthesize them into a new conclusion that isn't explicitly printed on the page.
That is the perfect way to frame it. Theme is the conclusion drawn from a pattern of supporting details. It is never just a detail itself.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Since inferring theme is this higher-level synthesis skill, let's look at the ultimate proof of why knowing the topic just isn't enough.
Let's do it.
Principle 3. One single topic can generate wildly different, even completely opposite themes.
Yes. This is the single most important concept for anyone prepping for an exam to internalize. Let's take the topic of war.
Okay.
It's a simple, bounded noun. You could fill a library with books on this topic.
Totally. So let's say you read Eric Maria Remarque's famous novel, All Quiet on the Western Front.
Right, the World War I book.
Yeah, it's this visceral, brutal depiction of trench warfare. The topic is war. But the theme, the full sentence argument, is that war destroys the humanity of even sympathetic, innocent young men who did nothing to deserve the horror they're experiencing.
It's a profoundly anti-war message.
Exactly.
Now compare that to Rudyard Kipling's poem, The Charge of the Light Brigade.
Oh yeah, the Crimean War one.
Right, specifically a disastrous cavalry charge. It uses the exact same broad topic, soldiers engaging in deadly combat, but it synthesizes those details to advance a nearly opposite theme.
That duty and honor in the face of certain death are deeply noble, regardless of how foolish or tactically flawed the commanding officer's orders were.
Same topic, totally opposite arguments. Naming the topic tells you absolutely nothing about what the author is actually arguing. So if a question asks for the theme of the Kipling poem, and you just choose the answer that says war, you have demonstrated zero comprehension of the text's actual purpose.
I want to pivot here to the listener who's like grinding through study guides right now.
Good idea.
Because if someone is studying for the TEAS or HESI A2, they aren't usually analyzing 19th century war poetry. They're reading dry, scientific, informational passages. How does this topic versus theme dynamic apply to nonfiction?
It applies directly, though the terminology does shift slightly. In nonfiction, the theme is usually referred to as the main idea.
Main idea, okay.
Let's walk through a classic example. You get a passage, and the historical topic is the discovery of penicillin.
Okay, I'm the stress student. I use my barcode scanner. I skim it. I see the name Alexander Fleming. I see the word antibiotics, and I say, cool, this passage is about Alexander Fleming.
And if you stop there, you fall straight into the trap. The exam question asks for the main idea, and one of the answer choices will definitely just say, Alexander Fleming discovered penicillin.
Because it's bait.
It is absolute bait. The correct answer, the main idea, wouldn't just be about Fleming. It requires you to synthesize the details.
So what would the right answer look like?
The correct answer might be a generalizable statement like, scientific breakthroughs often arise from accidental observation rather than deliberate structured design.
Because the text probably detailed the actual incident from back in the 20s. The passage likely focused heavily on the fact that Fleming noticed mold, I think it's Penicillium notatum, killing bacteria in a contaminated petri dish simply because he'd accidentally left it out on his bench before going on vacation.
Precisely. The test is measuring whether you can see past the historical topic, Fleming's messy desk, and his vacation to the generalizable claim the author is making about how scientific discovery actually functions in the real world.
Wow, okay. Let's bring this out of the testing center entirely and into everyday life.
Sure.
Think about a nonfiction op-ed you might read on your phone this afternoon. The topic is social media use among teenagers.
Very relevant.
You could have 2 articles published on the same day with that exact same topic. Article A's theme might be unregulated algorithmic feeds actively erode adolescent attention spans. And it backs that up by citing survey data from Common Sense Media or, Gene Twenge's research on smartphone adoption.
Right. And Article B could cover the exact same topic, social media and teens, but argue that concerns over new technology are historically overstated and correlation does not equal causation.
Exactly. Same topic, entirely different main ideas. If a question asks what the passage is about and you just say social media, you failed to state the argument.
You missed the whole point.
Okay, I need to throw a wrench into this because something is bothering me.
Uh-oh. Lay it on me.
We talked earlier about Louise Rosenblatt and reader response theory. We established that reading is a transaction and that multiple themes can be completely valid based on the reader's perspective.
Right, we did.
If that is true, how on earth do standardized tests make a fair, objective, multiple-choice question? It seems fundamentally impossible to have a single correct A, B, C, or D answer if meaning is subjective. This must drive test takers crazy.
Oh, it does drive them crazy. And it is the great plurality debate in education.
So how do they solve it?
The reality is standardized tests do not solve this philosophically. They engineer around it, practically.
What do you mean by engineer around it? Like, how do you build a question that respects multiple interpretations but only has one right bubble to fill in?
They design the question so that only one answer choice is fully supported by all the text's evidence. The test makers intentionally pick passages that are relatively unambiguous.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, they aren't giving you James Joyce on a nursing exam. They're giving you a tightly structured essay.
So the other options, the distractors, they're just mathematically flawed in some way.
Yes. The distractors are carefully calibrated traps. They're usually plausible-sounding overgeneralizations, or they're statements that are too narrow and just restate the topic. Or, and this is the trickiest one, they are claims that sound really good intuitively, but are explicitly contradicted by one specific minor detail hidden in, like, the third paragraph.
Man, that is devious. You really have to turn off the barcode scanner and interrogate the text.
You really do.
Which leads to another massive trap I want to talk about. The Aesop's fable confusion. I feel like early childhood education accidentally ruins people's expectations of how adult reading works.
Oh, you're talking about the moral of the story.
Exactly. Think about how we learn to read. We're all trained as kids on stories like The Tortoise and the Hare.
Right.
The topic is a foot race between two animals. But the theme is stated explicitly at the very end, wrapped up in a neat little bow. Slow and steady wins the race.
Yep, it hands it right to you.
Because of that early conditioning, students expect every text to just hand them a stated rule at the bottom of the page.
And that is a fatal assumption on a nursing exam. Fables are the exception, not the rule.
So real tests don't do that.
No, most literature and virtually all exam passages never state their theme outright. They don't do the work for you.
Right.
If you rely on that moral fable format as a mental template, you will almost always get the main idea question wrong because you'll be looking for a sentence that just isn't there. As we discussed, the theme must be inferred from the pattern of evidence.
Which leads right into a terrible shortcut that a lot of bad test prep coaching teaches. I see this online all the time. The topic plus a feeling word formula.
Oh, it is a disaster. It really is.
Why do they even teach it?
Well, it's the idea that you can bypass the hard work of synthesizing by just taking the topic, adding a value judgment, and calling it a theme.
Oh, like a student identifies the topic as war. They add a feeling word, is bad, boom, theme, war is bad.
Right. I mean, I get why stressed students do it. It seems like a decent survival tactic if you have 2 minutes left on the clock and you just need to pick an answer.
But why does that fail so hard on real exams?
It fails because it produces a theme that is way too vague to be tied to specific textual evidence. And test writers know exactly what students are doing.
So they use it against them.
Absolutely. Vague, universally agreeable answer choices are exactly what test writers design as their most attractive distractors.
Because an answer like war is bad or life is hard feels universally true. A stressed student reads it, agrees with the sentiment, clicks it, and moves on, feeling totally confident.
But they didn't answer the question based on the text.
Right.
Principle 2 told us that a valid theme must be traceable to specific developments in the passage. What actually changes in the narrative? What does the main character conclude after failing? What specific data points accumulate in the essay? You can't just bolt a generic judgment onto the topic and hope for the best.
So what does this all mean? Like, passing the TEAS or HESI is great, getting into a nursing program is the immediate goal. But why do these nursing schools care so deeply about this highly specific reading skill?
That's a fair question.
Right. Why is the ability to separate topic from theme weighted so heavily for someone who just wants to learn how to, start an IV or monitor vital signs?
Because for a nurse, this isn't just an academic exercise in a classroom. It is literally a matter of patient safety.
Wait, patient safety. You're drawing a direct line from a reading comprehension question to keeping a patient alive.
Absolutely am. Think about the clinical application here. In a hospital, nurses are reading patient histories, complex discharge instructions, and dense research abstracts.
Okay, true.
And they're doing it under immense physical and mental pressure. They're exhausted, alarms are going off, they have 5 other patients to check on.
Okay, I'm picturing the chaos. How does topic and theme factor into that exact moment?
In that high-stress environment, a nurse has to be able to correctly and instantly separate what this medical document covers. So the topic from what this document is actually telling me to do or conclude, which is the main idea.
Got it.
Let's take a clinical passage a nurse might read. The topic might be medication interactions in elderly patients.
So they scan the chart. They know it's about elderly medication.
But if they only extract the topic, they are flying blind. The theme, the critical argument being made by the research, might be polypharmacy risk increases nonlinearly with each added medication requiring immediate dosage adjustments.
Wow, okay, that is a huge difference.
Exactly. The organizations behind these exams, like ATI and HESI, view this specific inferencing skill as a direct, measurable predictor of a student's ability to safely interpret clinical documentation in the real world.
So if you can't find the main idea in a quiet testing center?
You won't find it when monitors are beeping and lives are on the line. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, though, this goes way beyond just the nursing field.
How so?
This is an essential survival skill for the modern information age.
It really is. The media literacy application is just massive. Think about it for you listening right now. In your everyday life, two different news outlets can cover the exact same policy debate or the exact same economic report.
The topic is identical.
Right. But they will marshal highly selective evidence to push completely different arguments, completely different themes.
Yes.
If you cannot separate what is this article about from what is this article actually trying to convince me of, you are highly vulnerable. You can be persuaded to adopt a viewpoint without even realizing an argument was being made against you.
That is the danger of stopping at the topic. You accept the premise of the article without ever interrogating the author's conclusion.
Okay, let's bring this all together. We've covered a massive amount of ground today, from ancient Greece to modern hospital wards. Let's recap the absolute essentials you need to walk away with.
Sounds good.
First, topic is a word or a short phrase. Theme is a full, complete sentence. Second, one topic can yield wildly opposite themes depending on how the author uses the evidence.
Right.
Third, most texts do not explicitly state their theme like an Aesop's fable. You have to infer it, you cannot just scan for it. And finally, yes, nonfiction has themes too. They're just usually called the main idea.
This raises an important question for everyday life, actually, and I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over.
Lay it on us.
The next time you're scrolling through your newsfeed on your phone, look at a headline and ask yourself, is this just telling me the topic to get my attention? Or is the headline actually sneaking the theme, the author's ultimate argument, right into the title before I've even read a single piece of evidence?
Man, that is such a powerful question. It really forces you to put down the barcode scanner and actually look at the machinery of what you're reading. Thank you so much for taking this deep dive with us today. Keep asking questions, keep looking past the topic, and we'll see you on the next one.